Hi, this is my 1978 Continental Mark V, and I'm going to be replacing the timing chain and water pump. And I'm making this video in case there's anyone else that needs to do the same on their car. I'm going to be following along with the original engine shop manual for these cars. And I'm not a professional mechanic, but I'm very passionate about cars, more specifically older cars. And I believe that if you share the same passion for cars as I do, you can do just as good of a job, if not better, than what a professional mechanic would do. So, with that being said, let's fix it. Alright, so I've disconnected the battery. You're going to want to do that first, and then we can go ahead and drain the coolant. And there's a petcock on the bottom of the radiator right there. I'm just going to go ahead and start removing the fan shroud bolts, and there's one here and one on the other side. It's a long bolt for a fan shroud. Okay. And then the other one here is a 5/16. I don't know which one's original. Maybe it should have both 5/16, or that's a factory to have a 1/2 inch on that side. But and now we're just going to want to lift up. There's 2 retaining clips down there, so just lift up and I guess just push it forward a bit. There's 4 bolts on the fan there. I'm going to go ahead and just spray them with some PB Blaster, rust penetrant. And I don't really know if this is going to do anything because the bolts are still tight, but I'm just going to pretend like that's doing something, and then I'm going to loosen those up. And these are 1/2 inch bolts as well, holding the fan on. And while you're doing this, you want to be careful not to damage any of the fins on the radiator as best you can. Yes, so you can go ahead and not use PB Blaster because the threads are already at the end, all the way on the end of this bolt here, so that was pointless. Okay, so when you got all 4 bolts out, just kind of wiggle it, and the fan should come off relatively easily. And then there's going to be a spacer as well behind the fan, and then you're going to want to kind of be careful here with the radiator fins. Just gently take your time, pull that out. Now that we have the fan and fan shroud removed, I went ahead and just put the fan shroud bolts back where they go, just so I remember what those bolts are for when I'm putting everything back together. But now we need to remove the AC compressor belt, and I actually already removed mine because it was making a growling noise, and I don't really use AC. But if you have your AC belt on, there is a bolt behind the tensioner right here, and here, I'll come around and show you. It's right there, and you're going to want to loosen that and then remove the belt. And then we got, I think, 8 bolts. There's one bolt here that's obstructed by the water pump pulley, so you're probably going to have to loosen the power steering pump belt first to get that off. So anyway, yeah, I'm going to do that. And these bolts are also 1/2 inch bolts. So some of them aren't actually 1/2 inch bolts. So I guess these ones here are 9/16. Yeah. Sorry about that. So some of them are 1/2 inch, some of them are going to be 9/16. I'm going to loosen the power steering pump here, just so I can take the belt and pulley off. And so there's a nut up top, and that is going to be 11/16, and I'm using a deep socket. I'm just going to loosen this here. And then there's a lower bolt, and I believe that is a 1/2 inch. No, it's a 9/16. So I'm going to loosen that one as well. Take this power steering belt off, and this water pump pulley should just slide off, just like that. And now we can get the rest of the AC compressor bolts here. And so it looks like all the bolts are 9/16 except for the 3 closest to the compressor. Those are 1/2 inch. And you want to pay attention where the bolts go. I don't know, but some of them might be longer when you pull them out. Like this one here looks a little bit shorter, so I'm going to kind of just keep track of where they go, and when we remove this AC bracket, I'm going to put them back exactly where they should go. And it looks like the AC compressor stays in place, so I guess it doesn't really matter which way you take these bolts off. Now that we got the AC compressor bracket removed, we're going to remove the alternator belt, and to do that there is 2 bolts. There's a 5/8, I believe. Let me just double check here. Sorry, so a 9/16 bolt right there, and you're also going to need a 5/8 socket to remove this bolt here. there's actually a nut on the back of this bolt here to adjust the alternator. You might need a wrench to hold it, but mine stayed in place. So. Okay. Then once you have the alternator loosened, you can remove the alternator drive belt and then the power steering belt. The manual says to now remove the alternator mounting bracket from the water pump and position the alternator out of the way, but I don't want the alternator just hanging there, so I'm going to first just remove the alternator. I just got to disconnect these connections here, and then once I remove the alternator, then I'll remove this bracket out of the way. Okay, so to disconnect the alternator, there's one connector here that you depress this tab. I don't know if you guys can see that. There's a tab right there. You're just going to want to take your time and don't force it. It's probably brittle or broken already, and wiggle that out. I'm going to take my time and do that. And then there is a 7/16 nut on the one terminal there, and then a 5/16 nut on the bottom terminal for the alternator, then that will be disconnected. So we got the alternator disconnected, and now I'm just going to work on removing the alternator bracket bolts next, and then completely removing the alternator. Alright, I'm going to spray these bolts with some PB Blaster. Again, they're tight, so it's probably not doing anything. I'm just doing this to make me feel good. And then I'm going to remove the bolts now, and so I think this one here is a 5/8. I lost my 5/8. Oh, sorry. So I'm going to remove this. This one is a long bolt. So again, pointless on the penetrant there. And I believe the alternator is going to fall out, so you're just going to want to hold it while you take this one out so it doesn't fall. Is this unthreaded? Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'll just wiggle this. It's a really long bolt, this one. Okay, so we got that out. And there's going to be a spacer too, so I'm going to just grab the spacer first. And okay, we'll let the alternator rest right there for a sec. I'm going to come in from this side. I'm just going to nicely wiggle this out. Just like that. Okay, so these two bolts here are 3/8, and the other one is a 7/16. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this one first. Yeah, and once again, these are all long bolts, so rust penetrant was pointless again. Yeah. Okay. Those are out. We can just let this hang here. And yeah. Okay, now we're going to remove the power steering pump bracket, and so we're going to use our 11/16 deep socket to remove that top nut, and then a 9/16 socket to remove these two bolts there, and we should have that removed. And we already loosened these two ones here when we loosened the power steering pump belt, so it should just come off easy. Spoke too soon. So the power steering pump is supported by this stud coming out of the block, I guess. So that's all good. Now we're going to loosen the heater hose on the top of the water pump. You can either use a flat blade screwdriver on this hose clamp, or I'm just going to use a socket to loosen that. to slide that hose clamp up out of the way now, and hopefully this isn't too hard to get off. Yeah. I'll be right back. Okay, that's off. Okay, so now we're going to disconnect the lower radiator hose from the water pump. So there's another hose clamp here, and I don't know if these are original or not, so I'm just going to say that you can use a slot or a 5/16 socket to remove this hose clamp, but I'm not sure if this is factory, so I'm going to tell you guys anyway. But yeah, it might be different on your car. It's probably going to be stuck on there too. Yeah. Yeah, that was really stuck on there. Okay. And there might still be some coolant in these hoses, so just you want to be careful when you take it off. Yeah, so this one has stuff still in it. And I'm going to actually remove this first before I dump this. So I'm just going to set this kind of back on there like that. And the next step is to remove this here, but the air pump is actually still attached. Okay, so the next step is to remove the crankshaft pulley, but for some reason the manual doesn't say anything about the air pump, but I'm going to need to remove the air pump belt first before I can remove this. So there's one bolt under there and there's one here, so I'm going to loosen that, and then hopefully we can get this belt off and then we can remove the crankshaft pulley. So both top bolt and the bottom bolt are 9/16. And the bottom one, I actually had to hammer it on because it was so rusted. So if you do have an air pump, yours might be the same. Got those two loose. this will just swivel. Yeah. So wow, that's greasy. And just like that, we got our air pump belt off. To remove the crankshaft pulley, there's 4 bolts inside, and those are 9/16 bolts, and I'm going to be using this impact wrench here to remove those. I'm not sure how. Oh, okay. Thought that was gonna be a bit harder, but okay. Okay, now I'm gonna drain the coolant here. Now that we got some more room, I'm just gonna move my catch bags here. Okay. So I think next is we're going to remove this water pump. I'm going to disconnect these vacuum lines here, and then there is I believe 8 bolts, 1/2 inch, and so I'm going to get those removed, and hopefully this will come off easily. These bolts are different sizes, so try to remember which ones go where. Just take your time, take pictures. As soon as I take this out, I'm going to put the bolts right back where they came from on the old water pump here, just so I remember. think that's all of them. I'm just going to put the bolts right back in now, just so I remember where they went. I'm sure you can figure it out where they go anyways, but I don't know, just to make it easier. But now we need to remove the vibration damper, and there's one bolt, the crankshaft bolt in the center, and that is a 15/16. If you don't have a 15/16 socket, you can use a 24mm to remove that, and I'm going to be using the impact wrench again. We really want to make sure this one comes out without any problems, and yeah, so let's get that removed. Okay. Now that we got the crankshaft bolt removed that holds on the vibration damper, we need a puller to remove that from the crankshaft. So I got this thing here, and a harmonic balancer steering wheel puller, and it comes with bolts here. You want to make sure you get the same bolts that match with these that held on the crankshaft pulley. So luckily these ones that came with it actually thread in pretty good. So yeah, just make sure you have the correct bolts. You don't want to ruin the threads on this here. If the kit doesn't come with the correct bolts, just go to the hardware store and try to match the same thread size from the bolts that came out of here. Okay, so I'm going to set this puller up here. I'm going to be using the pointy end, and I'm going to just put that on the end here like that. So we're going to grab our two bolts and thread those in. They're a little long, but we can make it work. Yeah, we want to make sure this is even as well. I'm just checking. I'm feeling behind. The top bolt didn't just stopped right at the end of the threads. This one's going all the way through. So I'm just going to feel right until where it stopped, where the other one stopped. And that should give me pretty decent now I'm just going to thread this in until it touches the crankshaft in the center. Okay, so that's tight. So now we're going to go ahead and start slowly cranking this. It should pull it out. And yeah, I can see it slowly moving. Okay, we should be able to just wiggle it off. And there we go. Okay, so now that the vibration dampener is off, you're going to want to inspect it for cracking. And mine actually does have some cracking on it. I don't know if that's going to show up on the camera or not, but I'm probably going to go ahead and replace this. Yeah, I don't know if you can see that, but yeah, so this is going to have to be replaced. Next we need to remove the timing pointer. There's going to be two nuts here, 1/2-inch nuts. Hopefully we can just swing this bracket out of the way. I don't know how to remove it on the air pump here, but we'll see how that goes. Okay, yeah, so that's just going to swing out of the way. We'll swing this out of the way as well. And the air pump's still hanging on by this bolt here. So I'm just going to let that hang there. And now there's two more nuts under that bracket for the air pump, so we'll remove those. Oh, it looks like these are studs, I guess. Keep that there. And that one there. And the timing pointer is off. Now we're going to remove the timing cover. And there's just one more bolt right here. And I believe that's a 1/2-inch. Let me just double check. Yeah, so one more 1/2-inch bolt there, and we should be able to remove the timing cover. I'm going to use this scraper thing here to kind of gently pry it off from the engine block. Let's see if we can find a good spot here. There we go. It was on there pretty good. We got it cracked loose. Yeah, I don't want to pull on it yet. I'm just going to kind of work my way around a little bit more. We just about got it now. Just take your time. And there we go. Timing covers are moved. And there is our timing chain. Now we got to remove the fuel pump outlet line. This one here. So I think there's just a 1/2 inch fitting. I'm going to loosen that and remove it. And the inlet line, the manual just says to let the pump hang, so I guess we're just going to remove this 1/2 inch nut and bolt attaching the fuel pump to the engine block, and then I think we're just going to let it hang. So yeah, let's do that. Fuel is going to leak out, so make sure you have your catch pan under. Okay, so I'll remove the nut and bolt attaching the fuel pump here. Sorry if my head's in the way. Okay, I got it. I will just slide this out. Just like that. And yeah, I guess we'll just let it hang like that right there. And yeah, okay, and that's the fuel pump removed. Okay guys, so now we are at the timing chain and we removed everything we needed to remove for the most part. We still got to remove this fuel pump centric here, but anyways, so now what we're gonna have to do is crank the engine over and line up our timing marks. So I'm gonna put this crank bolt back into the crankshaft so I'm able to turn the engine over by hand. And yeah, we're going to turn the engine over and line up our timing gears, and then we'll remove the timing chain. Now that we lined up our timing chain sprockets by cranking over the engine here, the next step is to remove the fuel pump centric. this bolt is a 9/16. It might have a Loctite on it as well, so it might be a little bit hard to remove. Just keep an eye on your timing marks. Just make sure it doesn't move. It shouldn't, but again, you just want to make sure. And there you go. One last thing before we remove the timing chain, we need to remove our crankshaft bolt. I'm going to use this impact wrench again to get a quick burst off of there so it doesn't move our timing, hopefully. Yeah, and we're good. So let's just remove that. Okay. And now our timing chain and sprocket should just slide off as an assembly here. So just take your time, wiggle it, and it should come out. Yeah, just like that. And there we go. Our timing chain is removed. The shop manual now says to reinstall the new timing chain and then the fuel pump and kind of put everything back together, and then it says to drop the oil pan and put that seal in, which is, I don't know, I think that's kind of weird to do it that way. So what I'm actually going to do now is, instead of putting on the new timing chain and then cleaning this gasket here and, you know, it falling in the engine there, I'm going to instead kind of skip some steps and first remove the oil, drain the oil and remove the oil pan, and then I can clean this gasket around here and probably do a better job cleaning it, and then I'm going to reinstall the timing chain and the timing cover and then put the oil pan back on. I think that's just a little bit of a better way of doing it. So yeah, so that's what I'm going to do. So what we're going to have to do now is jack up the car, and then we're going to have to raise the engine in order to drop the oil pan. So yeah, let's do that. Shit, that was way too fast. Now that we got the car jacked up, I'm going to drain the oil so we can drop the oil pan. The drain plug is a 7/8. the next step will be to jack up the engine, but I wanted to do that all in one day. Put a new oil pan gasket on and put it back on, because I don't want the engine to be exposed to the elements too much, since I'm not in a shop and I'm just in a driveway. So I'm just going to take today and prep all the parts and clean them up to get ready to put them back on the front of the engine, so I can do it all in one shot instead of waiting for parts to come in. So that oil pan gasket is going to be arriving tomorrow, hopefully. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to remove the crankshaft and harmonic balancer seal, or vibration damper, whatever you want to call it. I rented this tool from Canadian Tire, just like a bearing oil seal driver set. So I'm going to find one of these that kind of fits just around the lip of the oil seal, and then we're going to drive that out, and then we'll take it downstairs and clean this off. And that's it, our oil seal's out. Now I'm at my parts washer, which actually used to be my mom's laundry sink. She can't do laundry in here anymore. Sorry, Mom. So yeah, now we're going to clean up this timing cover, and I'm just using a Scotch-Brite pad here from the dollar store. You can use a gasket scraper, a razor blade. I can use a razor blade as well. And we're just going to clean this up and get ready to put our new gasket on the timing cover, and then put on the new oil seal there. Okay guys, well I think I'm done after breathing in about 2 to 3 pounds of rust and brake cleaner. That's about as good as I'm going to get it. If I let my OCD run wild, I'd probably be here for another 3 hours, but this stuff just won't come off. There's a lot of pitting on this timing cover, and a lot of rust that, you know, I even used a die grinder here to try to get some of the heavy gasket material and rust out, and yeah, it's just not coming off. So that's as good as I'm going to get it. Yeah, so I think what I'm going to do here, ideally I'd probably replace this timing cover, but it shouldn't be too much of a problem. I'm probably going to paint this, maybe, I don't know yet, but I might get some Ford Blue and just completely paint it to kind of stop it from rusting any further than it has already, and just try to preserve it as long as I can. So Anyway, I'm going to decide what I'm going to do with this, but anyway, now that we're done cleaning this, I'm probably going to wait till my oil pan gasket comes in, and then we're going to jack up the engine. We're going to put our new oil seal in now. I'm just going to put a tiny bit of grease, just a tiny bit, around where the oil seal gets pressed in, just so it goes in a little bit easier. Just a tiny bit. Okay. We're going to grab our new oil seal here, position that like that, find one that fits. These rental tools aren't the best, but they'll do. Okay. That's it. Our oil seal is in. Alright, so now we're at my paint booth here, and I'm going to go ahead and paint the water pump and timing chain cover. I taped off the areas that I don't want paint to get in. And yeah, I said I was going to paint the whole timing cover, but I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to paint the inside where it bolts the engine, and I don't want to paint where the water pump is going to sit, because I don't want the paint to interfere with the gasket or anything like that. So I'm just going to paint these exposed areas that are going to be on the engine, just to kind of help it from rusting a bit. And I'm using a Ford Blue engine paint to paint this. I don't know if this is the right Ford Blue, but I guess it's close enough. That was way too thick of a coat. I'm gonna let that sit for an hour, and then I'm gonna come back and do a second coat. Oh, and I just want to clarify, I didn't put the gasket on yet or anything like that. And there's 3 holes in the timing cover that have threads, and so I just attached the water pump just by loosely threading in the 3 bolts there. Just to kind of hold it where it would sit on the engine when it's all installed. But yeah, I didn't put the gasket or anything on yet. I'm gonna do the second coat now. I know I'm putting way too much paint, but can't help it. timing cover and water pump are done, and came out pretty good. Oil pan gasket is here, so now we're going to raise the engine to remove the oil pan. The manual says we need to remove the sway bar mounts from the chassis. So there's one mount here and one mount here, so that needs to unbolt, and then I guess we can just swing it down. And then the manual also says to position the transmission cooler lines out of the way here, and so they're just up top. Sorry, the sun's getting you. Just up top there. Undo those, and hopefully we can just kind of position them down like the manual says, but I don't want to bend these, so I'm going to make sure these don't bend too much. If they do, I see where they connect to the transmission back there, and if I have to, I'll show you guys how to remove those as well. But so we're going to start by positioning the sway bar and transmission cooler lines out of the way. So these are 9/16 bolts for the brackets on the sway bar. I have my fuel pump just hanging out of the way, but I'm just going to remove it because I don't want the sway bar resting on it or hitting it, and I just want it out of the way. It's just taking up space, so I'm going to pinch off this fuel line here and remove the inlet hose. And then I'm just going to get the fuel pump right out of here. Okay. Okay, I got the fuel pump off. Let's set that aside here. And now we will take off this other sway bar bracket. I'm trying not to get in your guys' way here, but I might have to in a sec. Okay, sway bar is loose, and we're going to set that down. And so I think next, we're still probably going to have to set these transmission lines aside, but I'm going to remove the engine mount through bolts on either side, and now we're going to jack up the engine. I'll take you in and show you first before I start removing those. Okay, so next we're going to unbolt the through bolts for the engine mounts. So there's one here on the left side of the engine, and then one right there. Okay, and there's a nut on the back, so I'm probably going to have to get a wrench and hold it. But the bolts here are 11/16 socket, and so I'm going to assume, I felt back there, I can't really see it, but it feels like it's the same size. So I'm going to go grab an 11/16 wrench, and then we're going to remove both through bolts for the engine mounts, and then we can jack the engine up. pretty tight, so I'm just going to use another bar as a little bit of an extension for leverage here. And I'm just going to try to break this loose. Yep, that's loose. This thing's in my way here. Not exactly sure what it is, but there's just two 1/2-inch bolts on the bottom. I'm just gonna loosen those and kind of swing this out of the way a little bit so I can get my ratchet in there. I don't have an 11/16 wrench, so. Alright, this thing's removed. I have no idea what that is. If someone knows what that is, let me know. Okay, anyways, now we got more room in here. So I'm going to continue taking off this left engine mount. Okay, so there's one through bolt. That one's out. I'm definitely going to clean these before I put them back in. I also sprayed these with penetrant, rust penetrant. Definitely do that for these for sure. On the back where the threads are showing, these are on pretty tight and they're probably rusted pretty good on your car as well. Okay, the exhaust manifold's in the way, so I'm just gonna grab a wrench. So I got an 18mm because I don't have an 11/16 wrench, and I'm just gonna throw this on the back nut here. And this is very loose, so hopefully it doesn't round the bolt. I'm going to try a 17. Okay, 18 it is. I'm going to grab my extension bar here. This one looks like the nut is staying and not spinning on the other end, which is good. So I'm just going to keep doing that until it starts spinning. Yeah, so it's spinning, so I'm going to grab our wrench now. of our engine mount through bolts are out. Before I jack up the engine, I'm just going to go ahead and remove these transmission cooler lines first. So I'm going to do that. Definitely spray these with penetrant, let it soak for a minute or two, and then yeah, we're going to remove both of those. Okay, so there's a 1/2 inch fitting and then a 5/8. I'm putting a wrench on both just so it doesn't spin. And that came off nice and easy, that's good. So that's one. And the one down there. Yeah, don't cut yourself in the radiator either, like I just did. Okay, our lines are loose now. That's good. Just gonna let them sit there. And fluid's gonna drain out. You might want to put something under there. Now we're going to raise the engine. Ideally, if you had a hoist or cherry picker to raise it from the top, that'd be ideal, but I don't have any of those, so I'm just going to use this floor jack. And what I did was I cut a few pieces of wood. I'm going to put these pieces of wood underneath the engine mounts to keep the wood, or to keep the engine from coming back down. And to raise the engine, I'm gonna use this block of wood that I cut, and basically I'm just gonna do something like that. You don't want to jack up without a piece of wood to dissipate the pressure, or you're gonna damage your oil pan. So I'm gonna use that piece of wood, and yeah, see how it goes. When you're doing this, you want to really pay attention. If at any point you're jacking up, the engine does not move, you don't want to keep jacking up. So you really just got to watch and slowly bring it up. And we're only going to bring it up about like 2 inches, just so we can fit the those blocks under there. Okay, we got one block in, kind of. Okay. Okay, the engine's jacked up. And we got our wood blocks just under the engine mounts. Okay, so now we're gonna remove all the oil pan bolts and drop the oil pan. It's got 1/2-inch bolts on the 4 corners, it looks like, and then 7/16 bolts along the sides. I took out the side bolts first. Now I'm gonna just take out the 1/2-inch corner bolts on the oil pan. Cut all the bolts of the oil pan, and it should come out now. I'm gonna grab a mallet and give it a few taps. See if it comes loose. I'm gonna go from the front here and just pry it, try to pry it off a little bit. There we go, it's loose now. I just took a little prier in the corner up here. We can kind of try to slowly bring it down. There we go. There we go. Okay. So we got it off. And I'm just gonna slide it. There's a bracket for the transmission cooler lines. You'll see it. I think it's a 1/2 inch here. It is, I think. Yeah. I'm just gonna remove that. and you'll see it. Look down the transmission cooler lines and you'll see a little bracket. It's right here beside where the engine mount through bolt was. And I'm just going to remove that just so these can flex a little bit more. Okay. So that's out. Okay, I'm going to push them up, I guess. And now we can move our oil pan. That's it, our oil pan is off. The oil pan is off now. And so I'm going to take some time and clean all around where the oil pan gasket seats for the engine. And then I'm going to also clean now the timing cover, the old gasket where the timing cover goes. I'm just going to use a Scotch-Brite pad and a razor blade here, and I got some brake cleaner. I'm just going to spray on the pad. Okay, and our timing cover is clean, and I got it about as clean as I can get it. It looks dirty in some spots, but I don't know, I really scrubbed at it, and that's as best as I'm going to be able to get it. So now next, there's particles and stuff in here. I probably should have put a towel over the crankshaft or something but you can just wipe it off with a rag and stuff best you can. I have my little air compressor, so I'm just going to come in and blow it out a little bit. But again, you guys can just use a rag and just clean it up the best you can. Now we're ready to put our timing chain on, but I just want to take a second and explain to you guys something about these cars and this engine here. I'm not an expert. I've just done a little bit of research, so what I'm saying might make sense, might not. I might be wrong. I'm sure someone will correct me if I'm wrong. But anyways, to my knowledge, you know, these cars were made in the 70s, and in the 70s, early 70s, there was the oil crisis, and a lot of auto manufacturers had to adhere to emissions regulations, new emissions regulations, and stuff like that. And So these motors were no exception. So to my understanding, these are what you would call a smog engine, and basically there's a lot of different emissions systems on it in order to limit how much fuel and emissions it gives off. Anyways, so one of those systems had to do with the engine timing, specifically on this engine, and there was really no way to fix that other than to replace the timing chain. And it's not difficult, you know, and I recommend you change it so that it doesn't do that. The engine, I believe, runs hotter, and you get less fuel mileage from that happening. So easy way to fix that is you simply get a new timing chain, not an OEM one. So this one here is one we took out. It's a single roller, which that doesn't really make a difference, but what does make a difference is on these aftermarket timing chains, you can this one's a double roller, by the way, and what you do is there's timing marks on these sprockets, and to fix that emissions setup is all you have to do is put it straight up, which is a really easy fix. Again, the timing, I guess, was built into the stock timing chain. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to show you guys how to do that. If for whatever reason you decide to still put an OEM one in, it's the same way. You just put it straight up, but you're going to have that, I believe, retarded timing by 4 or 8 degrees. I'm not sure the exact numbers and stuff. Again, I'm very limited on what I know about this. I just did a little bit of research. So anyways, I'm going to be putting in this double roller timing chain, and I'm going to just be setting it not advanced, not retarded, just 0, so straight up timing. And this is an Edelbrock 7821 right here, in case anyone wants the same. And actually a few guys as well at car shows also recommended that I do this to mine after telling them I was doing my timing chain. So yeah, anyway, I just wanted to quickly touch on that in case you weren't aware of that. So yeah, now we're gonna go ahead and throw this timing chain in. Yesterday I tried to put the timing chain on, and I had a little bit of a problem. The crankshaft sprocket on my new kit didn't fit. It was binding up on the end there of the crank, so it wasn't going all the way in, which obviously is a problem. You can't install a timing chain unless the gears are in line and you know, all the way seated. So I went out and I bought some 1000 grit sandpaper here and cut it into little pieces, and I just took about, I don't know, I'd say in total maybe 45 minutes to an hour of just sanding it last night and this morning, and thankfully I finally got it to fit. So I guess now we can continue to put our timing chain on. I'm really happy about that, because that would have been I don't know, a big problem. Like not a huge problem, but I would have had to order a whole new timing set and all that, and wait. And I really just want to get this this car fixed now. So anyways, now we can continue and put our new timing set on. Just gonna put a little bit of grease on the crank here just to help it get on easier. it's a pretty tight fit. I'm gonna double check and really make sure that's on, but I think that's on. I'm also sure that the vibration damper is gonna seat that if it's not 100% seated, and the fuel pump centric's gonna draw that in if there's any, like a millimeter or so of space. I'm hoping, but I'm pretty sure that's on. So if you couldn't just tell, I didn't sound too confident when I put my new timing set on. So I kind of struggled. It was really tight on there, but I took it back off, and thank God I did, because when I put it on, there was a little bit of space. Hold on, let me try. I'm trying to do this one-handed. 1 second. Okay. So there was a little bit of space, and I kind of had it right there, but there was about, I don't know, 1/4 of an inch behind it, and yeah, it's supposed to touch the back, okay, of the engine block here. So I didn't have it fully seated, and I kind of had a feeling about that, and thank God I took it off. So it was really tight on there, so I'm really trying to rush. I want to get this over with this timing chain. It was really fighting me with this gear sprocket not fitting on there, but I decided to just take my time again. Took another 20 minutes or so, and sanded this down a bit more with 1000 grit, and now it slides on even smoother than before. Of course, now that I'm recording, it's not, but okay, the camshaft sprocket still wasn't going all the way in. So what I did was I just put the fuel pump centric on, and I used the bolt, and lightly, like I didn't force it, obviously, but it really went in with minimal tightening. But anyway, I just kind of snugged it up, not even close to the what the torque spec is, and it just kind of seated into place. So if you need help and you can't do it with your hands, you can use this, and yeah, anyway, that's about as tight as I had to do it, and I can just loosen it off now, take it off, and I think that's the next step anyways, to put this on. But I'm gonna go to the bottom of the car and just eyeball the chain and make sure it's not on a slant or anything like that, and double check this crankshaft sprocket on the bottom first, and then yeah, I guess we'll put this on. Alright guys, I took off the fuel pump centric, and I just noticed some debris on it, so I just kind of took the 3 pieces off and sprayed them down with brake clean, and then I coated them with oil, and now we're ready to put it back on the camshaft here. And I also coated the timing chain with oil as well, with that spray bottle that broke after 3 sprays. So I just kind of dumped oil and made a mess on the ground. So anyways, just make sure you oil this timing sprockets and chain. And the manual says also to put some oil on the threads of these bolts. So anyways, I just put some oil on that, and yeah, now we're gonna just put this in the car. And yeah, I'm gonna go grab a torque wrench and tighten that down. Okay, so once again, this is a 9/16 bolt here, and I got my torque wrench set to 45 foot-pounds. once you have this torque down, just double check and make sure this outer ring moves freely. I got the fuel pump reattached. Just make sure to add some oil to the whatever lever part of the fuel pump here, just so it's not running dry when we first start it up. The bolt is 15 foot-pounds. The nut is 14 to 20. I can't fit a torque wrench on the nut, but you know, just go by hand. Just don't go too crazy on tightening it. We're about to put our timing cover gasket back on to the engine block now. I'm just gonna wipe down the surface one last time with a brake cleaner, just to make sure there's no oil or anything on there, and then we're gonna set our gasket on. Sure enough, with aftermarket junk, this the holes don't exactly line up perfectly because I guess there's too much gasket material, so it's pretty loose on there, and I set it on the timing cover and you can see that it doesn't, some holes don't line up unless you kind of flex the gasket a little bit. So yeah, poor quality gasket. But what we're gonna do instead, so the manual says to put gasket sealer, RTV, whatever you want to call it, where this gasket's gonna sit, then place the gasket on with the timing cover and water pump. We're not going to install the water pump yet. I'm just going to be installing the timing cover first, and then we're going to put the oil pan on and then do the rest of that. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to coat the other side of the timing cover. This is the front, but the other side I'm going to coat with RTV, put the gasket on, and I'm going to hold it with this bottom bolt here. This is where the dowel goes on the engine block. That's where the other dowel locating pin goes. This is the timing pointer. I painted that too, by the way. So I'm going to hold the gasket with these 3 bolts to hold the timing cover onto the engine block and let that RTV set up, and then since this gasket is loose, especially on the top part of it, to make sure everything seats correctly, I'm going to grab this bolt from the water pump right here. This top bolt on the water pump threads into the timing cover, which doesn't thread into the engine block, so I'm not using that bolt. I'm going to use the bolt beside it, and that goes right there. So I'm going to also put that bolt in, and when I put this on the engine, I'm going to torque these 3 bolts to spec. I'm going to double check the spec and let you guys know. This bolt, since it's raised, because it's going to hold on to the water pump, I'm not torquing down. I'm just going to thread it in, you know, about ½ an inch or whatever, just so the gasket stays in place, and then it has a better chance, hopefully, of the other holes lining up with the gasket as well. Alright, I'm going to let that set up for a minute, just go wash my hands, then we're going to put this on the car. line up the locating pins first. There's one. There's the other one. Okay. Is that going to stay? Should. Okay. I'm going to grab this bolt here. I'm going to put some thread sealant. Oh, perfect. I'm just going to put some thread sealant on the threads. I really don't want this to leak. Now I'm going to thread that into this hole right here. See that? Okay, that's one. I'm going to go grab the timing pointer. Again, I'm going to put thread sealant. Oh, okay. I guess that's how you do it. That's one. And two. Okay. Last, we got our water pump bolt for just the top part. I'm just going to thread that in. I don't know. I think by putting on the gasket on the timing cover first, guided by these bolts, and then the RTV over top, you don't really need this bolt. It looks like everything is lined up pretty good, which is good. I'm going to put that in anyway, whatever. Okay, and now I'm going to torque these bolts to 18 foot-pounds. That's it. We're going to let that sit there now, and we're going to move on to the next step. I removed the vacuum switch from the old water pump, and I'm probably going to put this video before we reinstall the water pump. As you can see, this is after, but the temperature sender, I think that's what it is, whatever, is blocking me from turning this, so you're probably going to want to remove whatever you have. If it's a plug, you're fine, but if you have one of these on your old water pump and you're replacing the water pump, it's a good idea to do this before you reinstall your water pump. It's not a big deal. I'm just gonna have to loosen that, but I don't really like playing with too much stuff and loosening and stuff like that, just in case. I don't know how hard that is gonna be to remove, but anyways, just thought I'd give you guys a heads up with this thing here before you put your water pump back on. Okay, I got both those back in. I put some thread sealant on both, and do yourselves a favor, guys, if you have one of these vacuum switches on the water pump instead of a plug, put that on first before you bolt the water pump on. Coolant was not a lot, but just a little bit of coolant spilled out of there, and I had to wipe it up. So yeah, it's better if you just put this on first. Alright, I want to put my water pump on next, actually, before I do the oil pan. So yeah, I'm gonna pretty much do the same thing as like what I did on the timing cover there. And first I'm going to put RTV on the water pump, set this gasket on, hold it with a few bolts, and then I'm going to put RTV on the other side, and then we're going to go put it on the engine. Alright, now we're gonna set our gasket on. And I'm gonna slide some of these bolts through, just the top two I guess, just to kind of hold it in place. And yeah, I'm just going to press all around, make sure it's seated, and then I'm going to put the same stuff over top. Now we are ready to go put this on the car. So I'm going to set you guys up over there, and then we'll bolt this down. Okay. So I'm just going to thread some of these bolts in by hand, just so we have it secured. On there. I'm just going to grab my ratchet here, and what I'm going to do first is just snug these down, not tight, just snugging them. That one's good. That's good. And there's a fitting here where vacuum lines went to. I know I'm missing that. I'm either gonna try to find a new one or get that old one removed from that water pump. I tried a little bit, and it's like really rusted in there. So, and I can't really bring heat to it because it's a plastic fitting. So, anyways, I'll figure that out. So yeah, we're just going to keep snugging these bolts at all 1/2 inch. Okay. So, just got this power steering one in the way. Actually, you know what? We'll start with this one. So, I'm going to take one at a time out, now that we have them all snug down. I'm going to take them out one at a time, and we're going to put thread sealer on all these bolts here. We really don't want this to leak. One, and then we're going to torque it down to 18 foot-pounds. Okay, so I'm going to torque this one here to 18 foot-pounds now. that one's torqued. I'm gonna do all these bolts. I'm probably gonna speed it up, but I'm just putting thread sealer on every single one of these bolts. Even if it doesn't need it, I'm gonna do it. We don't want this to leak. So that's it. That's all I'm gonna do. So all those bolts, thread sealer, and then torque them down to 18 foot-pounds. Okay, so we got all the bolts torqued to 18 foot-pounds, and I put thread sealant on all of them, on the threads, and I went around, double checked, and torqued them all again one more time, and that's it. So now we got our timing cover, our timing pointer, and water pump installed, and everything is tightened, and hopefully no leaks. I think now I'm probably going to clean the oil pan and put on a new gasket for it, and then we're going to put that on back onto the engine now. I'm getting ready to put the oil pan on, and I already cleaned the gasket surface on the other side and the inside a bit, and I painted the outside. It's not so much for looks, more to stop the rust, or slow it down, I guess, because it was pretty rusty. So yeah, I painted that. I'm just going to let that dry. And what we got over here is the oil pan, or the engine block surface where the oil pan bolts down to. I'm just cleaning it. I'm almost done. Yeah, so I cleaned all the way down there on this side. I just wanted to bring your guys' attention to the back part. I got most of it off now, but just like the timing cover, the end seal on the back, usually when you take it off, or I don't know about usually, but when I took it off, there was still material stuck to the block. So make sure, even though you remove that seal, the end seal there, you take the time to clean any leftover material that's on the engine block before you put your oil pan on. Okay, oil pan is painted, and now I'm going to prep the gasket, put it on. So my plan is, I took a look at the car, and what I'm going to do is I'm first going to put the two sides of the gasket for the oil pan on, and then I'm going to go to the car and put these on the engine block, the end seals, one on the timing cover and one on the rear of the block. So I'm going to load these up with RTV so they don't leak in the corners, because I don't see how this is going to sit on there nicely. Actually, we're going to figure it out. This is after I installed the oil pan. I just wanted to make a quick note here for anyone following along. I don't want to misguide you, so I didn't check the manual. I kind of thought it was just a straightforward process, but it actually says to coat the block surface and the oil pan gasket with contact cement, and position the oil pan gaskets on the cylinder block, as you can see in this picture. So what I did was I only put the 2 oil seals on the block, and then I coated the gaskets and the oil pan itself with RTV, contact cement, whatever. Anyways, so I put those 2 side gaskets on the oil pan and then put it in the car. I did notice that there was tabs, and it kind of didn't make sense at the time, but now I see why those tabs are there. So hopefully I don't get a leak, but I'm going to put this video before I show you guys my oil pan installation, just so that if you want to do it this way, this is how the manual says for you to do it. So I guess we'll see if I get leaks or not, but yeah, I would try to do it that way. It is pretty tight though, under the car, so you'd really have to take your time to do this under the car. But if manual says to do that, I'm sure it's possible, and it might be better than the way I did it. Okay, so I'm ready to put the gaskets on the oil pan here, and I looked at the car, and it doesn't seem like there's any way for these end seals here to stay properly on the oil pan. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put these on the block in the car with RTV. So I'm going to coat them up, and especially in the corners, I'm going to put a lot, and stick them on the block, and then I'm going to put the 2 side pieces on first here, and then I'm going to let that set up. I'm going to go to the car, put RTV all around, and then especially where the seals go, and then put these in, and then I'm going to bring this to the car and hopefully put it on without any problems. Okay, now I'm going to go over to the car and put these seals in with the RTV, and then I'm going to come back and then finish off some RTV over here on these ends, the seal ends of the oil pan, and then I'm going to bring this to the car and hopefully we can get it in. I got my 4 1/2-inch bolts in by the seals, just so we can crush those seals down first. I think everything went okay, so now we're on to our 7/16 bolts, and I'm just gonna go around and snug them, and we'll torque them down after. We got one more bolt here. That wasn't too bad. And you guys are really gonna need some weird extensions. I'm using like a swivel and then like anyway. I don't know what I'm talking about anyway. Okay, they're all in. Now I'm going to come back with a torque wrench and torque them down. Alright. We're going to torque the oil pan bolts, and the manual says 11 to 13 foot-pounds. So I'm going to torque them to 13 foot-pounds. Actually, we'll go with 12. Whatever. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to torque the 1/2-inch bolts first. Okay, so the ones on the corners holding the seal. we're gonna have to use extensions here. And okay, I'm gonna grab this. So got it set to 12 foot-pounds. Okay, and now we're just gonna torque these bolts here. I'm going to tighten them down at the same time here. Just to kind of keep them even. And I'm going in the crisscross pattern, so I did the two front ones and rear ones with the 1/2 inch, 8 foot-pounds, and now I'm going to do the 7/16 ones. Right, let me just double check. Yeah, the 7/16 ones I'm going to be doing. And I'm going to do like that one, then the far left one, then the front left one, and then the back right one. And then just keep going that way till you get to the middle. Now that we have our oil pan torqued down, we're going to remove our 2 wooden blocks that we put under the engine mounts and lower the engine back down. We're just going to slowly lower it back down. Just like that. Okay, now we're going to put our motor mount through bolts in, and I just cleaned these up with a wire brush a little bit, the threads. They were really dirty, so yeah, I'm going to do that, and I'm going to torque them down to about 45 foot-pounds. I can't find the exact torque value for these through bolts, so I'm just going to do 45. But if anyone knows the correct value, just let me know. These are 11/16 bolts. Again, I don't have an 11/16, so I'm just using an 18mm wrench to hold the nut on the back. Okay, I'm going to do the same on the other side, and I'm going to tighten down that transmission cooler bracket, a 1/2-inch bolt there. Okay, and the transmission cooler line bracket, we're going to tighten. I reattached the sway bar, and now we're going to reconnect our transmission cooler lines. So I'm using my 1/2-inch wrench again and my 5/8 to put these on. Sorry. Okay. So that lower one's on. Okay, now I'm going to install the mysterious vacuum box, which function is unknown to me. Anyways, I'm going to mount that back on there and tighten those two 1/2-inch bolts and connect this vacuum port line, whatever. Now we're gonna remove the car off the jack stands and lower it back down. Okay, now that we have the car back on the ground, now we're going to put on our vibration damper. And so I did buy a new one. I don't know if you're still going to be able to see or not, but the rubber is distorted around this one here, so I don't know if you can tell the difference or not. But it's cracked and stuff too. So anyways, I just went ahead and bought a new one. I'm going to be putting this one on. I coated the crankshaft and the inside here with some oil, and I also rented another tool. It's just a harmonic balancer pulley installer, and so we're just going to find whatever one fits in the crankshaft, and then we're going to put this on and hopefully tighten it down. Okay, the harmonic balancer installation kit doesn't fit the thread size of the crankshaft. So what we're going to do instead, I just went around and tried to find a long bolt that matches that thread size, but I couldn't find any. So I'm just going to hit it with a rubber mallet. I'm not hitting the outside, I'm just going to hit the center and light taps, just lightly. Then I'm going to install crankshaft bolts. Okay, that, and then I'm going to go grab a 15 to 16. I think the size is. I'll be right back. Okay, we got our 15/16 socket, and I'm just going to, it's not taking much pressure, like going on relatively easy, so I'm just going to crank it down with the crankshaft bolt. Okay, and there you go. So before I did that, I got about like an inch of threads. If you can't use a rubber mallet, I don't think the rubber mallet did much. I maybe moved it like a couple millimeters, but it's okay if you put the vibration damper back on, and just as long, you can use the crankshaft bolt, but make sure you have at least an inch, half inch of threads. You don't want to start cranking this down with like 2 threads hanging on, because then you run the risk of stripping the threads inside the crankshaft, and you definitely don't want to do that. So again, I did it that way just because I had to. If you can somehow find a harmonic balancer installation tool, it's probably better to use that, but yeah, anyways, that's how I did it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the hardware store and I'm going to find 2 bolts that are the same threads as in here. I'm going to go grab for the pulley, right? Those 4 long bolts. I'm going to find 2 new ones, and I'm going to use a pry bar in order to torque that down so the engine doesn't rotate. And the reason I'm getting new ones is just in case I don't want to bend, you know, the other ones that I'm actually going to be using, so I'm just going to use new ones just in case they do bend a little bit. It's not a big deal, just throw them out and throw them in the garbage. But yeah, so I'm going to go do that, and I'm going to come back and we're going to torque that crank bolt down with pry bar and off of 2 bolts. So I'll be right back. Okay, I went and got my 2 bolts from the hardware store. These are 2.5 inch length bolts. You don't need that that long, doesn't really matter. Just anyways, longer bolts than what the normal bolts are to bolt the pulley on. And you know, I just thread these in pretty much all the way. Alright, so we're just gonna thread that in, and now we're going to torque this. The manual says 70 to 90 foot-pounds for the crank bolt, and I have my torque wrench set to 80 foot-pounds here. So we're going to get our pry bar and just hold it like that, and to keep the engine from turning. And now we're just going to torque this down. It'd help if I was just a little bit stronger. Okay. There we go. Crank bolt is torqued to 80 foot-pounds. Now we can remove our bolts that we used for the pry bar. And our vibration damper is installed. Okay, we're gonna throw on our vibration damper pulley now. And yeah, I painted this too. Just to stop the rust. Rusting as well. Okay, those are tightened. Now I'm going to attach our heater hose here, and I've already put on the vacuum lines for the vacuum switch and connector there if you had to take that off. That's good. And our the lower radiator hose. Gotta connect to. And I should have really replaced this this hose here, but anyways, it's fine. Okay. I'm going to reconnect or reattach the air pump. Half-inch nuts here. I don't know if you guys can see. I'll show you guys after how I've installed the air pump. Again, the manual skips the air pump removal and bracket removal, so the vibration damper pulley is kind of in the way, but I'll just use a swivel attachment for my socket, but it'd be easier to do this before you put the pulley back on. I'll just use one of these. Okay. So our air pump bracket's on. I had to loosen this just to clear the water pump. Tighten this down a little bit, but not too much. I'm going to leave this loose. I'm going to go grab the belt. Oh, it's right here. And we're going to put our belt on. It goes in the very back. And now I'm going to go under the car and tighten that bolt that's under there. I'll just bring you guys in. I'm not going to record it, but so yeah, just attach this bracket, those two nuts, and I had to loosen this a little bit just to clear this part of the water pump to allow it to come out a bit, So anyways, tighten those down. I left that a little loose. I'm going to go under the car and tension this belt, and then tighten that bolt on the bottom of the air pump, and then I'm going to come up and tighten that bolt down. Now we're going to install our AC compressor bracket. The manual skips this step, so I have to take it back off, but this piece right here goes behind and bolts to the water pump. So I had to undo everything just so I can get this one bolt for the power steering pump bracket to get behind that, and the bolt to thread in. So now I'm going to tighten everything back up again. I'll probably put this before, just so you guys know and don't do the same thing. But yeah, that was a little annoying. Okay, our AC compressor bracket is attached. Again, make sure put your power steering bracket. The manual doesn't mention it. So yeah, make sure you slide that behind the AC compressor bracket on this lowest bolt, because that bolt threads, not threads, but it goes through the AC compressor bracket and the power steering bracket. So I had to loosen everything, but anyways, now everything's back on. Our power steering bracket is on. I'm going to probably tighten that next. Yeah. I think it's that one, yeah. This one's the alternator belt. Yeah, okay. So I'm gonna put our power steering belt on. And I think, sorry, yeah. So I think our water pump pulley needs to go on now too. Okay, we're going to put our alternator bracket back on now. And now I'm going to grab the alternator and we're going to put it back in the car. Okay, I'm just going to move our wires out of the way a little bit, just for a sec. We're going to grab our through bolt here, and slide that. Be nice if I had someone to help me. Okay, and we got our spacer on the back. Okay, now that that's in, come on, you can slide that all the way through. Okay. Okay. And I'm going to tighten this a little bit. Not tighten, like kind of snug it down. Okay. So we got that snug down. Now I'm going to tighten the 3/8 bolt. Top one here. Okay. Okay, that's tight. And it's a nut and bolt on the bottom here of my alternator. I'm going to undo that. And then we're going to put our bracket on. So we're going to swing our bracket. It goes behind the alternator. Okay. Nut back on. Now that that's on, I'm going to tighten the lower bolts for the alternator bracket, the 3/8 bolt. Okay, that's tight. And now we're gonna put our alternator belt on and then tension it. Oh, this too. This here bolts the alternator bracket. Do that. It goes behind. Yeah. That back on. .7/16. Okay. Okay, that's it's bolted back on now. Okay. Yeah, so our alternator's on, it's loose, our brackets are all tightened down. And what I'm going to do is just throw these connections back on. Our alternator is attached, and throw our belt on. And again, I'm not I don't have my AC belt on. So, if if you have your AC, you're going to need to put the AC belt on first, and then you can put your alternator belt on, but again, I'm skipping that. So now, I think we're going to throw on, before we tighten our alternator belt, we throw on the water pump pulley. And throw in our water pump pulley, and I'm going to go grab our fan spacer and bolts for the water pump pulley. Now that we're going to attach the water pump pulley, we're going to put our fan shroud back in. Maybe just hang it right there for a sec. And we're going to put our fan on. And so yeah, the fan shroud has to be in. Try to find a spot. It's going to want to sit. I don't know. We just kind of put it back on the mounting tabs at the bottom of the radiator here. Okay, that seems to work. So you guys aren't going to be able to see, I guess, in here, but you just put the fan. Oh, let's try this. Can we do it this way? No. Well, so the spacer has to go in behind the fan. Okay. So the spacer's got to go in behind the fan this way, right? So put that on there, and then I'm going to grab one bolt. Try to just catch the water pump pulley in the back. Okay, got one threaded in. So now we got to tilt this fan up and just try to watch the radiator fins. Yeah, there we go. So now it's being held in place, and we got one bolt in. Now I'm just going to put in the other three. Okay. Now we're going to tighten all these down. Okay. Our fan is on. Now we can position our fan shroud. And screws back in. Okay. So our fan is in, and you can see here the water pump pulley is tight. Okay, put our spacer in, our fan, and fan shroud. I didn't tighten these yet, but anyways, so what I'm going to do now is tighten the water pump and power steering belt. Lift this up and tighten it, and I'm going to tighten the alternator belt, and then we're done. So there's a 9/16 bolt on the power steering pump on the bottom there, and we're going to tighten that first. So I'm going to grab a breaker bar here and just put that into the slot there, and now I'm going to pull up to tension the belt there. I'm going to tighten this bolt. Okay, so that's tight. Might be a little too tight. I'm just going to loosen that just a tiny bit. Okay, that's too much. Yeah, that should be good. Okay, and then I'm gonna tighten the 5/8 nut here. Sorry, it's not a 5/8. It's a 11/16. Tighten that. Okay. And our power steering pump is tight. We still didn't connect our fuel pump down here, the outlet tube and the inlet. So we're just going to thread that on now, and bring you back when I tighten that. But I'm going to be changing the fuel filter, so I'm going to just do that off camera. I'm just going to change the fuel filter down there, and yeah, and then I'm going to attach the inlet. Okay. Now we just got our 5/8 bolt on the top here. Okay, that's tight. And I think we're done. We just got our fan shroud to tighten down. I'm just making sure it's on the tabs on the bottom. We're almost ready now to start the car. What I need to do first is I'm going to tighten that fuel pump outlet line there, that fitting, and the inlet. I got a new fuel filter, so I'm going to attach that. And I also got coolant and oil, and a couple things I'm going to do off camera. I got a new battery cable, negative battery cable, because this was the one that was in the car, and yeah, so I went ahead and got a new one. I'm going to do that. I do have a transmission leak, and the car has been sitting for about a year, unfortunately. It just so happens that this car stopped running properly after I took it to a mechanic, ironically enough. So I'm gonna have to probably rebuild the carb or something. There's still gonna be other issues with this car. It's still gonna start up and run probably, and I'm gonna drive it. Yeah, it's probably gonna have to. That carb's gonna have to be pulled off, and I'm gonna go through it. I brought it to the mechanic for him to rebuild the carburetor, and never ran properly ever since. And also, this mechanic that I brought it to was well renowned in my area. Many people recommended me to bring it to him, and he's been in business for decades. So you know, can't say that I brought it to some hack job mechanic. This guy builds engines and stuff, and he still screwed up my carb. So yeah, that's another reason why I'm a very big advocate of doing all your repairs yourself if you care about the car. He also broke my hood ornament too, so that was just the cherry on top. I got all the plug wires installed, and I put in the new battery lead, negative battery lead there, and make sure we close the radiator petcock before we fill it with coolant. And yeah, so now we're going to fill that and fill up the engine with oil. Oh, and I reattached the fuel pump inlet and outlet lines, so make sure you do that as well. I just changed the fuel filter down there. So yeah, that's it. So now we just fill up the engine and radiator, and we can start the car.